good to go. You all have to, I think, approve it now.
Yes. Okay, shall we get started? Okay, so I did not realize that at the last meeting, the recording does not show me the beautiful screen of your faces in the Brady Bunch style arrangement. So we're gonna do a roll call, and then the folks who are the guests will ask to introduce themselves. So I'm here. Justice Duncan?
Hi, I'm here.
Great.
I do have to drop off in a half hour. I'm on my way to the airport.
Okay, great. Hopefully to go somewhere fun.
Yeah, it's good.
Judge Lageson?
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Judge James?
I'm here.
Cody Hosley?
Hey.
Great. Rep Krupp? No Rep Krupp. Rep Wallen?
Here.
Thank you. Senator Brzezinski? No Senator Brzezinski. Professor Bell?
I am here.
Great. Dean Dobbins?
Here.
Great. No John DiLorenzo? And then I would like to welcome our newest commissioner, Eva Kripalani, who is the governor's appointee. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning.
Excellent. Okay, so next I'm going to ask our law clerks to introduce themselves. Kara, do you want to go first?
Hi, nice to see some familiar faces. My name is Kara, and it's been a wonderful summer working for the Oregon Law Commission.
Wonderful. Gabe?
Hi, I'm Gabe Hansen, another summer research assistant for the commission. Very happy to be here.
Okay, great. And then we have some guests, which is fantastic. So Dexter, do you want to start? Just introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dexter Johnson, Legislative Counsel.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Avery?
Hi there. Good morning. Sorry, I'm not on camera. I'm the legislative attorney and lobbyist with the Oregon State Bar.
Great. And Avery did a great job this session. I was really happy to see her, and she was very involved. So thank you for coming, Avery. Greg?
Hi, good morning. My name is Greg Gill with the Eugene Municipal Court. I'm the presiding judge down here. And no reason to not have my video on, but do it. It was quick. Hello.
Great. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So, and I think we were hoping to have someone from Secretary of State's office, so she may be joining us in a bit. I'll turn it over.
Valerie?
Yes.
You forgot Susan.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Professor Gary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Susan Gary. I
Mortified.
am here because I'm the reporter for the Uniform Partition of Heirs Property Act, former commissioner, but no longer on the commission.
And again, I apologize for the oversight. I'm just so used to you being on the commission. So, okay. So Amy, I think it's you next.
It is. I wanted to let the commission know about some changes to membership. First, for those of you who were not at the program committee, Sandy Patrick is the new representative from Lewis and Clark. She cannot be here today. She's getting ready for the incoming school year, but she was at the program committee and has heard about the proposals. Eva, I might ask you to introduce yourself since you're here.
Sure, I can do that. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you, Jeff Dobbins, and of course, Valerie. So I have been, let's see, practicing law for a very, very long time. A Willamette grad, and I am currently currently a partner in a boutique law firm here in Portland, where we specialize really in providing outside general counsel services. Was a partner at Stoll Reeves prior to this iteration and have done a few other crazy things in between, and have had the pleasure of working with Valerie and have her to thank for this bestowing this honor. So I'm really pleased to be included and very excited about trying to get up to speed, trying to drink from a fire hose and understand more about the commission and its past work and the current priorities. So really happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
And Eva is the new governor's appointee. She's going to be taking PK Runkles-Pearson's position. And so she was appointed as of August 1st. And then I also want to let you know that I heard from Lisa Udland. She is moving to a new position. She's going over to the treasurer's office. And she was not here today. Ben Gutman is taking her role as the interim deputy attorney general. And he will be on the commission and was appointed, I guess, this week. He wasn't able to make it this week, but he will be here in November. And he will be our AG representative. So that is our new membership for the new members for the commission.
Fantastic. All right, next agenda item. Let's talk about the minutes. I know it's been a while, but we did not have a quorum at the last meeting, and so we need to approve and adopt the January 10th minutes. Anybody have any edits or questions about the January 10th minutes? Great. Can I have a motion to adopt?
I do. I move.
Great, thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Fantastic. We did not have a quorum, so Amy circulated informational minutes. If you have any changes to the informational minutes from the April 18th meeting, let us know. But because we didn't take official action, I don't think we need to adopt them. But they will be available as part of the record.
And
Cool.
can I jump in really quickly?
Of course.
If you attended that April 18th meeting and you're not listed as an attendee, please let me know. Because of the way the recording worked, I couldn't tell who was there and who wasn't. So if you want to have your name added to the informational minutes, please just let me know. Shoot me an email or something and we'll figure it out.
Great. Yeah, that was my technological mistake, so I apologize for that. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of proposed projects. We had a programs committee meeting, a couple weeks ago, and it was a very good discussion about a couple of things, and some things are moving forward. And so I wanted to start out by talking about the partition of heirs property project. And that was the project that we discussed at I think the January meeting, where we were talking about the importance of this. And it's not a very large act relative to some of the projects that we've taken on. But, it's very important when it comes to addressing inherited property and the situation where someone may want to sell and partition inherited property where they're currently tenants in common. So there's a lot of discussion that we should be having. There are a lot of states that have successfully adopted this. And I think there's some strong current and historical reasons for us to move forward with this project. Amy, do you want to talk about the folks that we've reached out to so far, or that you've reached out to so far?
I'd be happy to. So we've reached out to the State Bar, to OJD, to the Department of Justice, Oregon Law Center, pardon me, Oregon Land Title Association, AARP, Commons Law Center, Oregon Bankers, Association of Oregon Counties, the trial lawyers, the Uniform Law Commission, and Oregon Business and Industry. So that's who we've reached out to so far. We're reaching out as well. Rep Wallen, you had suggested reaching out to Rep Marsh, and I haven't done that yet, but she's on my short list of people to reach out to. And we're also reaching out to some other organizations that I haven't reached out to yet. But that's where we are with that. So we do have we have folks who have expressed interest in participating, and either as an individual practitioner or as a representative of an organization. So we do have kind of a chunk of folks that are interested and engaged and want to participate.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we looked at the folks who supported this bill at the national level, and that helped inform some of the folks that we invited to the table for this project, or folks who were involved in those discussions. But if there are any other suggestions that folks have on groups to reach out to, or folks you think may be interested in learning more about this, please let either Professor Gary or myself know, because Professor Gary is serving as the reporter of this project. Well, I guess I have to move to convene a work group, but Professor Gary has expressed a willingness to serve as the reporter, and I'm willing to serve as the chair of this because I do think this is important. Any suggestions, questions, thoughts? Great. So can I move to convene a work group?
I move and or second that motion.
Okay. I think that's a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Fantastic. Motion carries. Before we move on to the Muni Courts project, which is going to be a great discussion, we have a Monty Luddington just joined us.
That is correct.
Hi. Who are you with?
Good morning. I'm from Lane County District Attorney's Office. I'm a senior deputy DA.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. So who is introducing the Muni Courts project? Amy, do you want to start?
I'll start with it.
Okay.
So for those of you who were not at the program committee meeting a couple weeks ago, we talked a little bit about this, and if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. As you know, we had HB 2460 this last legislative session, and it passed, which is great.
Yes, and before we move on from that thought, many, many, many thanks to Justice Duncan and Krista for their hard work in organizing things and being willing to come testify before the legislature. It was a very successful process, and I'm really thrilled with how it turned out. So congratulations.
So 2460 passed, but one of the things that the work group discussed during the fall of 24 was that there were a handful of issues that were still open questions. And because of the pre-session filing timeline and just the amount of bandwidth that folks had, instead of trying to shove those in or work on them during the legislative session, the work group decided to create a list of things of outstanding issues that they would like to create a work group to continue to discuss. That was included in the final report that the commission approved in December or November, whenever that was. And this proposal was originally submitted to you all as a continuation of that work. We've done a lot of outreach to folks from the original work group saying, hey, are you interested in this? Are you interested in continuing the work? We've gotten pretty good feedback. Some folks are ready to roll off. I do acknowledge that 2460 was a very long time to be involved in a work group. So I'm not totally surprised that 100% of the folks are not ready to jump right back into it. But we do have that that original proposal. Then during the program committee meeting 2 weeks ago, Rep. Wallen raised an issue that she was interested in that had to do with municipal and justice courts, that was focused on oversight of municipal judges and the best way to do that, and suggested that that be incorporated into the proposal. And John DiLorenzo, another commissioner, for those of you who are new, also suggested that we look at the prohibition against the city of Portland having municipal courts, which I guess has been around since the 70s. So that was also incorporated into the proposal that is in front of you today. So we have a proposal in front of you. We have folks that are engaged and interested. We have, and I also flagged that Judge James, thank you very much, has agreed to be the chair for this work group. I'm thrilled. That's fantastic news. And so we will be starting that, if you all approve it, it will be starting this fall, and we will be moving forward with that as well, if of course you all approve it.
Yeah.
does anyone have any questions about the
Well,
proposal?
I have a little bit of color commentary about the proposal. So what the concept I think that came out of the last work group was that they wanted to have some additional discussion around what an appeal from a municipal or justice court might look like. That does raise the question, as Rep. Wallen pointed out, in my head about what are the qualifications necessary to serve that would stem from creating an appealable decision, or what sort of oversight there is. But I think that the core issue really is what does an appeal look like? So I think that's a big discussion that we would like to leave to the work group to figure out the scope of that inquiry. If it's okay with this group, unless you want to narrow it down. And then I think we would also leave it to the work group whether they thought it was worthwhile to address the City of Portland Municipal Court question. It's coming from John DiLorenzo. I don't know that we've heard anything at this point from the City of Portland about whether they actually want a municipal court, or if they think it would be a cost-effective thing to do. So, but I'm open to that discussion as well. I just wanted to point out that it seems that these are things that are potential. I think Rep. Wallen's proposal is more related to what I envision this work group's work of being. So I think we would send this proposal, we would convene a work group and then allow the work group to do the scope themselves, with the idea that here were the things that we were interested in them figuring out. Any other discussion, thoughts?
I'm trying to decide how to frame it. I think we should have some parameters like on the scope.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the larger scope is the question of appeals from municipal and justice courts. I mean, that really was the outstanding topic of discussion when the last group said, okay, we're going to finish up our work, we're going to put together 2460 and move forward with that. And so I think that the appeal of those, I think that brings in the question that you raised, how they choose to address it and what that looks like. I think is going to be something I'd like them to discuss with greater detail.
I mean, I agree that the work group is unlikely to go vastly off of the topic just because why add more work to yourself if you don't have to? But I just wonder for the framing from keeping it within the confines of what we would assign a work group to do if the commission has to. I guess that's a good question for Amy. Do we need to have parameters set by the commission?
I think that one thing that it's very easy to do is go down a rabbit hole, especially when you have a group of certified smart people chatting about a topic that they are very engaged in on a professional and oftentimes a personal level. So I do think parameters are and kind of sidebars are helpful. I also think sometimes that one of the nice things about the commission is everyone has so much experience in different practice areas that but we don't have that kind of deep understanding. So we might be missing something. And so I think it's a little bit of either or. I was wondering if maybe Valerie might have been suggesting that we have the scope of what's in the original proposal and then allow the work group themselves to be like, hey, I'm not sure if this is the topic for right now within that proposal. So let's say we said, hey, we really want you to talk about, I'm going to use you as an example, Rep. Wallen. I'm going to really want to talk, the commission said, you have our blessing to go talk about oversight of judges. And so that is in the universe of things to look at, but we're not looking at you to go off someplace else completely different and rewrite I'm not even sure what. Does that make sense? So
add a muni court to Multnomah County, for example.
I mean, I think that I think that sort of subsumed in that question, there's the bigger question of should justice municipal courts be required to have JDs? And they are not currently required to have JDs. But I don't want to cheapen that, and not cheapen that discussion, but I don't want to detract from that discussion by saying, okay, well, you have to rush through this, or you have to only address it in the context of the appeal issue, because I know within the tax context, we're seeing an awful lot of expansion of paralegal type professionals, and we've had for quite a while. So, and then we also saw with the limited license folks coming through the bar program not too long ago. So, so I think there's a bigger discussion about the role of para lawyers within the bar and where they fit in the judicial ecosystem. But I think I think it's something that has to be discussed in the context of appeals, but I think it's very likely a bigger question that folks may be interested in, discussing in addition to the appeals.
Valerie, I don't want to put Avery on the spot, but maybe Avery has something to add.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm not super prepared, I guess, to proffer an opinion on whether the work group should take it up. Obviously, the bar would have interest in the discussion and want to, participate and be included, but that's kind of where I'm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the bar has expertise in that particular question that we definitely want to loop in. I know I've had discussions with Mr. Doshi at the bar on this issue. So, so anyhow, I think because the work groups do report back to the commission, I think if we approve it, then I think we can ask them to figure out what what they think of this question and what sort of order things should go in. And then report back, Judge James, if you don't mind, we can continue this discussion next time.
I don't mind at all. What I was going to suggest was that if we have the information from the list before that didn't get covered, and that got kind of put on the side table, if we can look at that as a work group, and part of this will be a matter not so much of scope creep, but of just scope, containment, so that we're able to get the work done that you want done.
Yeah.
And it might be that what we can do is take care of the priorities that have been identified, and then depending on our bandwidth, we may say, this other topic. I'm just going to use John's suggestion as an example. This other topic is something that doesn't fit in the same time frame that we're able to kind of address it, or that maybe our report back might be that this is something that may need its own separate work group because it doesn't fit into what the priorities are in terms of what's been identified so far.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like an excellent plan from my perspective. Any other thoughts or comments? All right. Well, then I would like to move to convene the second Municipal and Justice Court work group.
Second motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great. Motion passes. Thank you all. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Amy to discuss our book.
So the next topic is, and I'm just going to open it up so I have it in front of me as well, is the biennial report of the Oregon Law Commission. And this is something that is statutorily required. We're supposed to put it all together and submit it to the legislature. It has been in kind of different iterations over the last since U of O moved, the commission moved to U of O, and I went back and recreated it for the 2023-2025 session. with the information I had. The materials, which I shared with all of you who were on the commission at the time back in January, have been updated with the final reports of the Municipal and Justice Courts Appeals project and the report from the LLC Act. So that is part of that report as well. The goal here is to have you all approve it or make edits if you have edits that you'd like to make. And then it will be posted on our website as a document explaining what we've been doing over the last 2 years, the reports, everything will be in one spot. We will also be submitting it to the legislature, so we're meeting our statutory requirements. And it is a resource for future people who want to know what we've been doing for the last 2 years. So that is the report. I'm trying to think of anything specific that has changed since you all looked at it back in January. I think the only thing that's there that is new are the final reports for HB 2460 and Senate Bill 164. Those were updated with information on the amendments that were made during the legislative session. So there is information in there saying, hey, it was amended in the House, it was amended in the Senate, it went to Ways and Means, that sort of thing. So, but other than that, what you're looking at is what you looked at back in January. If anyone has any specific questions about this, any of the sections, I'm happy to answer them.
I thought it was a heartbreaking work of staggering genius. So the only question that we are still trying to noodle out is what is submitting to the legislature look like? So we're going to coordinate with committee staff to figure out the most efficient and appropriate way to do that. No questions or other feedback? Okay, I'd like to move to adopt the report.
I so move.
Okay, or second. Okay, so I second if Cody moved. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Great, motion passes.
I thought I heard someone might have a question. Did I?
No, I think just as Duncan said aye.
Oh, pardon me. Okay. Okay, so the next thing on our schedule, our agenda, is the financial information. And again, this is because we didn't have quorum and I wasn't there in April. Some of this stuff is retread, so you've seen them before. This is the budget document that we submitted to the legislature, excuse me, not the legislature, University of Oregon for the 2025-2026. Starting July 1 of this year. I'm trying to think of anything specific about this to tell you. I will flag that thank you to the legislators in the room. We were fully funded. We got current service level, which is fantastic. So we did get the funding that we requested. We did not receive the policy option package of $50,000 that we had asked for. So that did not happen, but we did get the funding for the commission. So we are, our budget that we put forward, which was based on being fully funded, but without the POP, is still kind of where we are. Again, Eva, you're new, so I'll just give you this information. The University of Oregon, the fiscal year closes June 30th. And so we will get information on our final wrap up on our budget for 2020, the fiscal year that just ended in September, or maybe early October. And so in November, you'll be looking at what we did last year and where we are for that sort of thing. I will also flag that I attended a meeting yesterday at the University of Oregon, and the law school is going through, and the university as a whole, you might have seen the news that they are going through some financial difficulties, challenges, and so there's a lot of discussion on ways to address those. And the meeting yesterday talked about various ways that the law school specifically is going to address those. So they're maybe some changes at the law school. We are funded as a separate, our funding is, as you guys know, we are kind of unique in that we're a legislative body, but we get funded through the OJD budget. We're not part of the Higher Education Coordinating Commission university budget. But those, as changes roll out at the university and at the law school, I will keep you updated if any of them affect the commission.
Yeah, and I think that what my concern is related to the challenges that the U of O Law School is facing right now is the availability of support for the commission. So that gets to one of the questions, a later agenda item that we'll talk about. But so it's sort of a moving target. I think they are still trying to figure out what the reductions in force look like there. And it sounds like they're being very responsible and communicative about handling them, but it's a tough situation. But as far as the budget, our budget goes, I think we're doing fine. So, okay. Any questions?
Yeah. I don't think we need to.
We don't have to vote on
approve-
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we vote on the budget, I think, in the fall meeting. So do you want to move on to the legislative session?
Yes. Do you want to talk about 164 first or 2460?
Well, let's talk about 2460 while we still have Justice Duncan.
Okay. Congratulations, 2460 passed. It's great news. Super excited about that. It was for those of you who were not following every move of the bill this session, we got a number of work sessions. There was pretty robust conversations about what needed to be done and what didn't need to be done, and really focus. Thank you to Senator Przanski and Senator McLean on really digging into the statutory language and paying a lot of attention, which was great. Krista and Justice Duncan were both fantastic coming down to testify, especially when I was out on leave and was not as present as I was hoping to be. So I really want to say thank you to the two of them. And I also really want to say thank you to Jessica Menifee, who was just fantastic to work with. Jessica's agreed, or Dexter's maybe voluntold her, I'm not sure. But she's going to be working on Muni and Justice Courts again. So I'm thrilled that we'll be working with her again as well.
We feel very lucky to be working with her. And then I did want to point out that this is the first bill that the Law Commission has been able to have passed in almost a decade. So great job.
Is there anything you would like to add?
Amy, was it for me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of it.
Oh,
no,
I just go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. We had a very long process with this bill, and people really persevered, and we were able to get something through. I think we did identify a great group of people who will continue to work, some of whom will continue to work with Judge James on the project going forward. And I think it's a really great example of the different levels of the courts and the different ways that the law affects people throughout the state, where they'll be intersecting with the legal system. And if we can do things to make that easier for the people who are in the courts and for the courts themselves, that's great work for the commission to be doing.
Yep.
Thanks, Justice Duncan. You want to talk about Senate Bill 164, Valerie?
Oh, if we must. So SB 164 is the LLC Act, and this was our second attempt to get it through the legislature. It is not a controversial bill, but unfortunately, it's not a particularly sexy bill. So, and it does have a fiscal impact. So, I think that the fiscal impact was really the challenge this session, because everything that had a fiscal impact got moved to Ways and Means. And awaiting resolution of the transportation budget, which didn't happen on the timeline I think that folks were hoping it would happen. So we've been having a lot of discussions within the bar and with Secretary of State's office about ways to approach moving this forward, hopefully in the short session. But if not, then in the long session. As I said in an email I sent out to the tax and business bar, I'm prepared to keep moving this forward until the heat death of the universe, or it passes, whichever comes first. So because I do think it's really important. I think it creates a degree of comfort and guidelines for folks who do not have formal LLC operating agreements. I think it provides tools for more sophisticated planning. So I think that there's a lot of good things in the bill. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to pitch it and address that fiscal impact. Amy, any other thoughts?
No, I'm meeting with Secretary of State's office next week. And I think that we've gotten feedback from folks that there's interest in continuing the conversation. So we'll see what works best. Dexter, I did have a quick question for you. In terms of requesting a draft, I'm assuming there's a timeline on when we would need to ask for another LC draft?
For the 27 session or for?
If we were going to do 26, if they really was a chance to do 26, what's the deadline for requesting bills?
I don't remember the exact date, but it's towards the end of November, I believe, and I will email that to you. But I want to note that that unlike the long sessions, the short sessions are bill limited, so you would have to work with a member to get that introduced.
Yeah.
Yes. No, definitely. And that's part of that conversation. Thank you for reminding us of that, Dexter.
Yeah. And I do want to say, Dexter, we really appreciate your help with this bill. I know it's been, on your desk for a really long period of time, but we appreciate your perseverance in working with us on this.
Absolutely. And hopefully it will move forward.
Fingers crossed. Okay. I think any other questions about?
Jeff had a question.
Yeah, I was just curious whether Valerie and sort of everybody in your perception had the concerns changed much between the sort of the first round and then this past round, or is it basically kind of the same thing and it's just a matter of getting it high enough on people's priorities list?
Yeah, I mean, it moved forward farther this session than it did in the prior session. In this session, we were able to work with Senator Brzezinski's office to get it out of Judiciary Committee, which I think is a huge step forward. I think that the issue in the 23 session was partly the walkout, because the walkout and the challenges with reading a 300-page bill, if you have to read every word of the bill, on the floor is kind of a challenge, right? So I think that there were some political aspects that we kind of got sideswiped by. Nobody's opposed to the bill, at least as far as we know. I would think they would have come out by now to say, oh, this is, I don't know who would be opposed to it, but I think that, the fiscal impact was an issue in the prior session, but it became the issue in this session. So I think there's a certain amount of the stars having to align that to get a bill this big through. And, I think Amy deserves a lot of credit for having a lot of discussions with folks behind the scenes and laying the groundwork for, moving this forward farther. But just because of the fiscal realities of this session, I think that, so that's where we are. But we're having discussions with members of the bar, with Secretary of State's office, with a lot of the folks. I get questions from members of the tax bar and the estate planning bar and the business bar. So why doesn't this pass? Don't people realize that this is important? And I think one of the problems with being a lawyer is that it just seems so obvious that this should be a thing. Why isn't it a thing? But so I think we're trying to figure out how to thread that needle. So if folks have any suggestions or ideas on how to move that forward, I would personally love to hear them, and we'd love the help.
And I just wanted to add something really quickly in response to Dean Dobbins' question. One of the big issues that came up during the kind of sharing the bill before the legislative session, during the pre-session filing period, was particular conversation about liability in Oregon and whether this was changing liability. And Cody and Valerie can speak to this much more intelligently than I can. But what ultimately the various stakeholders decided was the best way to address this issue. You might remember that the Oregon trial lawyers had added some language in to the bill between 23 and 25. The best way to address this and to maintain current liability, and so we're not making it, more or less liability, was to just remove one section from the bill, which was section 12. And that was a big part of the conversation on the front end, and something that we talked about with the Uniform Law Commission, the work group, the trial lawyers, Oregon Business and Industry. So we had that whole conversation and removed that section. And I think everyone seemed happy with it. And so I would say that's the biggest change between 23 and 25. There were some tweaky amendments that came from DOR and OJD that were responsive to like, hey, your statutory language doesn't work for this particular scenario. But that was the biggest substantive conversation. And my understanding is that we solved that problem.
Yeah, Judge James.
So in a nutshell, can you tell us what the fiscal impact is, and on who it falls?
Do you want my cranky version or do you want the
She does not want the cranky version. I'll help you with that.
So the Secretary of State's office, there's 2 new forms that they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to make like a minor change to an existing form. And because of that, they've determined that they need a human being for a full-time position. So
I will tell you from the legislative standpoint that since you asked, that the fiscal is why it's dying.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. The politics of reading bills fluctuates.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it wouldn't happen again. Obviously it could, but the fiscal impact, and you can work with, I mean, it would be great if the Secretary of State representative was here, but also having conversations with that person to say, because that fiscal impact, a lot of people can have input into that. It's a very interesting process, how a fiscal impact is created. And so if it really is a full-time person and we acknowledge that, then that's going to just be lobbying the Ways and Means people to get that through eventually. I mean, it becomes, yes, getting it out of committee, but it becomes a lobby situation at the Ways and Means. But there's also pre-lobbying and sort of pre-conversations you could have about what would it really take. And the less impact, the lower the cost. If you can get the cost down to, $50,000, you're much more likely to get it through than. So it would have gone through without a 1 FTE.
Yeah.
That was kind of my question, because it seems like if it requires 2 new forms and lawyers know how to create forms that do what they want them to do, and a lot of times those forms sort of show up in the statute.
Yes,
the
correct.
language of the form just is completely statutory. And if we were able to accomplish that, then it wouldn't require people who don't know what we're doing or don't know what they're doing to be hired to do something that they have to learn how to do before they can do it.
Yeah, Judge James, I think part of the issue was that there's a programming aspect to it because much more is done online these days than used to be.
Sure.
I think that the other issue is that there was a change in leadership at Secretary of State's office that happened right before the session. So I absolutely agree, Rep. Wallen, that we were having those discussions, but because we knew and everybody knew there was this change coming, it added a layer of complexity to that. So I'm optimistic that we'll be able to have a deeper dive into the FTE situation and sort of how to facilitate this and move it forward. Because we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of lawyer hours into this already. So I would just not abandoning it. Heat death
Right.
universe.
No, it's just a matter of figuring out how to thread that budgetary needle for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and I appreciate the discussion. And as we move forward, we may come to you for advice on, how to have those conversations.
Happy to help with
Thank
any
you.
of
I
that.
appreciate that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk briefly about SB 15, Amy?
Certainly. So for those of we talked about this briefly at the program committee meeting. Senate Bill 15 was a bill this session that addressed simple estate affidavits and increased the thresholds on when you could use simple estate affidavits. And I know that there are a couple of estate planning and tax lawyers who are listening to my description right now saying you're not getting into the details. So, but I am going to try and keep it at a high level. The bill ultimately passed significantly pared down after feedback from the estate planning section, or I'm not sure if the section.
It was the section in OJD. I mean, I think there was a
Yeah.
lot of concern about the bill as initially introduced.
Exactly.
The question is whether the dollar thresholds for the simple estate are appropriate. I think there's a perception within the estate planning bar that perhaps indexing may be the way to go and not bumping it up to the exemption threshold. So, Rep Crop took an interest in this and is putting together a proposal for the work commission or for the commission to convene a work group. So we just wanted to flag this as an issue that we may be seeing again if we get a proposal through programs committee.
So the goal of that would be to have a program committee. What we've been talking about loosely is a program committee meeting in December, which is not currently on the calendar, but we will find a date for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So, yeah, any questions on that?
Great. Active projects, Amy.
So Lane was not able to be here today, but he sent me a quick email and said, please let them know that we're meeting. We're working our way through the Uniform Act.
Do you want to say what act it is?
Yes, it's the Electronic Wills Act that we're working on. There's a group of folks that have started meeting in April. And they're up to Section 5 of the Act. So we'll be meeting and discussing Section 5. Thank you very much to Lorianne Sills in LC's office for doing a Oregon specific draft of this. So we're working off of that draft. And Lane Shetterly is the chair and Eric Foster down in Medford is the reporter. And so far so good. And I will also flag that Gabe, who is our student here, has been working, one of our research assistants has been working on this project as well. So
fantastic. Thank you, Gabe. And thanks to Lane and to Eric for their hard work and the rest of the group. Okay, so I asked Amy to put the work plan on the agenda. So let's talk briefly about the work plan, and then we'll talk too about one of the ideas that I want to discuss with this group as part of it.
Okay, so for those of you on the commission, you've seen these work plans before. I've been doing them every quarter. Now that I can't believe it, but I've made it through a year of doing work plans. We switched up this time to do a 6-month plan instead of a year-long plan. And so that's what you have in front of you. So we'll have right now, it looks like we're going to have 3 active work groups going on. So that's great. Plus this conversation about the LLC Act. And then the thing that I wanted to flag is, and I think this is the thing that Valerie wants to talk about, is the under the governance section is a note about an administrative or governance subcommittee of this particular commission. And Valerie, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there have in the last 6 to 8 months been a number of administrative issues related to the administration of the commission itself that have come up that I really do not feel that Amy and I should unilaterally be making decisions about. And so we want to convene a committee, and we'll send this out to the folks who aren't able to be here as well, but want to get a committee that will look at things like succession within seats, because all the seats are appointed. And while we do have folks who are wonderful on the commission, I'm so happy with the group we've got. There are folks may choose to do other things with their time down the road. And so it'd be nice if we were to have folks who have familiarity with the working of the commission before they might be approached about stepping into a commission seat. I am, and this pains me to say this as an alumni, but I am deeply concerned about the situation at U of O. I'm not, U of O is a great organization. The law school is a fantastic organization. They've been lovely people. I do want this administrative work group to consider whether the future of the commission is appropriately at U of O, or if one of the other schools might make sense, or if perhaps a standalone organization would make sense. I think there's a lot of reasons to stay at U of O, but there may be reasons to consider other organizations as well. So things like that. So succession, governance, or succession and housing. And then was there one other one?
Just
I
since
think
we
policies
moved,
and procedures. I think we need
yeah.
policies and procedures. Mhm.
So one of the things that's happened, so we have now been at U of O for about a decade, a little bit less. And I don't think we've done an update on our policy, our bylaws in a decade or since we moved. And I do think that there has been some kind of development over the last 8 years with the move to Zoom so much, the way we're working and how things are changing. So it might make sense to kind of look at those bylaws and consider how that's working. Another thing is the
Public
program
records.
committee, public records.
Yeah.
There's just a handful of things that I can make decisions on, but I don't want to make them in a vacuum. And then 6 months later, someone says, "Oh, this is a crisis." So
you did it wrong.
yeah. And so the idea is to get together, create a subcommittee or subgroup to kind of hit on these issues and make sure that we're not missing anything. The plan would be to create a work plan to share with you all at the November meeting. And yeah.
Yeah, and so I think what we would ask is if you're interested in serving on that group, or if you have thoughts about any of the issues that we've raised in this very brief summary, please let us know. And then we'll continue to keep the full commission in the loop because these are all longer term things, but I want us to at least start thinking about them. Okay.
Valerie,
Yes.
I would be interested in.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'd love to have your perspective, Eva. Fantastic. Great. Okay, anything else on the work plan? Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Yes. Okay, Judge James, why don't you go first?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the work plan, and do we have what we just talked about in the work plan, or is it something we're proposing to add to the work plan?
It's in the work plan and it is under governance goals.
So
develop administrative subcommittee.
Okay, that's at the beginning or more at the
It's on page 3 under yeah.
Okay.
Right at the bottom.
Yeah, and we don't formally have to approve the work plan, but I like to have a structure for where the organization is hoping to be. And so that's why I asked Amy to share the work plan with you so that you have visibility to the things that we're planning on working on. And if there are things that aren't on there, we need to add them that you would like to see. Okay.
Got it.
Awesome.
So I do have one more thing, which I did not put on the agenda, and I apologize. But we will need to set meetings for 2026. For those of you who were on the commission in the past, you might remember that we set all of the 2025 meetings, the full commission meetings, at the end of in December of 24. I'd like to do that at the November 25 meeting. So if you have any feedback on the way the meetings have worked this year in terms of spacing, number of meetings, time of the meetings, that sort of thing, please, in person versus remote, which I think is There's interest in doing both, but I think it's also complicated. So
Yeah.
I would
So-
love that feedback.
Yeah, and one of the things on that topic that we had discussed that, perhaps the administrative committee could look at as well is the possibility of how, I think these Zoom meetings are convenient for everybody, but there's some intangible value in actually getting to be in the same space with each other. And so I would like for us we've been talking about having an event. We didn't do one this session, but we're talking about having an event this coming session and invite legislators and commissioners and everybody, just get a chance to interact in person. So watch this space. But we are curious about how the Zoom versus in person is working for you. Okay. Good. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, with 2 minutes left to go, I am going to move that we adjourn.
All right. A second. And I also want to just welcome Amy back in person. It's
Yeah.
fun to be back.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we missed you.
Well, it's nice to be back. So
Great.
thank you so much. And
Thank
I'm going
you.
to shut off
Stop
the recording now.
Yeah.
Yeah.